My parents mocked my small business and refused to help. Now they're applying for jobs at the company. They laughed would never succeed. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for as long as I can remember, my parents have treated my ambitions like a joke. I grew up in a painfully normal middle-class home. Nice lawn, PTA meetings, family photos where we all forced smiles like hostages. My parents weren't cruel in the loud, obvious way. They just made it clear I wasn't the one they were proud of. That title belonged to my older brother Daniel, the golden child. He was the one who followed the script. Straight A's, varsity track, miss school. My parents introduced him at parties like he cured cancer. Me? I was the dreamer. The word dripped with disdain. When I was 12, I told my dad I wanted to be a filmmaker. He laughed so hard he spit his drink on the floor. "That's cute," he said. "But when you grow up, you'll need a real job." At 15, I got into photography. My mom looked at my portfolio and asked, "So, are you going to take wedding pictures for a living?" Every creative idea I had, every flicker of passion was met with sarcasm or indifference. I wasn't lazy. I worked part-time jobs through high school, stayed up late learning Photoshop, editing videos, writing blogs no one read, but none of that mattered to them. I didn't fit into the box they built. Daniel got new laptops, paid internships, a car at 18. I got lectures about being practical. The worst part, I believed them for years. I let their voices become mine. Still, some stubborn part of me kept creating, quietly, in the margins. I didn't know it then, but those scraps of effort would one day become something real. But back then, I was just the family disappointment, and it would only get worse from there. I still remember the exact moment the idea hit me. It was a Tuesday night. I was sitting on the floor of my one-bedroom apartment, surrounded by scattered notes, half-finished sketches, and an empty pizza box. I'd just quit my miserable job at a call center, my third in less than 2 years. My head was buzzing with fear and a weird kind of freedom. That night, I sketched out the first concept for what would eventually become my company, a line of customizable, minimalist desk accessories for remote workers and students. I wanted to combine aesthetics and function, clean, durable designs that people could personalize. I could picture the brand, the packaging, even the website layout. I felt alive. When I told my parents, they acted like I'd said I was planning to join a circus. "You mean, like pencil holders?" my mom asked, stifling a laugh. My dad added, "Who even buys that crap? Go work at Target if you want to be useful." I tried to explain the business model, direct to consumer, low overhead, niche marketing through social media. But all they heard was, "You quit your job to sell desk junk online." Daniel called the next day and said, "You seriously think you can make a living from that? You barely passed math, dude." I asked if I could borrow the garage for inventory space, just for a few months. My dad scoffed, said it was his house, not a storage unit, and reminded me that failure builds character. No one offered help. Not a cent. Not even a single encouraging word. So I maxed out my credit card, bought cheap supplies, and turned my tiny apartment into a mini warehouse. I worked from my kitchen table, slept beside stacks of shipping boxes. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. But for the first time in years, it was mine, and they had no idea what I was about to turn it into. The first year nearly broke me. I don't say that dramatically. I mean it in the most literal sense. I was scraping together grocery money by selling my old camera gear. I lost 12 pounds just from stress and skipping meals. Every morning, I'd check my Shopify dashboard praying to see more than 5 orders. Most days, there were none. Still, I pushed. I took blurry product photos on my phone using a wrinkled bedsheet as a backdrop. I answered customer emails at 2 a.m., packed every order by hand, printed labels from a second-hand printer that jammed every 4th page. I lived off instant noodles, dollar store coffee, and this naive belief that if I just held on a little longer, something would click. My parents never saw any of it. Not that they wanted to. They called maybe once a month, usually just to tell me how well Daniel was doing. "He just bought a new Lexus," my mom beamed during one call. Isn't that amazing? She didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask if I needed anything. At Christmas, I showed up with a small gift I'd made for them. A custom engraved desk organizer, something I was proud of. My dad looked at it and said, "So this is what you've been wasting your time on?" Everyone laughed, even Daniel. I wanted to disappear. That night, I drove home in silence, staring at the taillights ahead of me through blurry eyes. I remember gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. They didn't see the work, the sacrifice, the endless nights, but they'd see the result someday. And when they did, they wouldn't be laughing. Not anymore. It happened by accident. One night, out of sheer frustration, I recorded a 30-second TikTok video of myself assembling one of my desk sets. I wasn't trying to be clever or viral, I just needed to feel something. I filmed it with lo-fi jazz in the background, captioned it, "What I make alone in my apartment while everyone thinks I'm wasting my life," and posted it. I went to bed thinking nothing of it. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Tens of thousands of views. Then hundreds of thousands. Comments poured in. People asking where they could buy it. People sharing their own stories of being underestimated. People saying, This is actually beautiful." I refreshed my shop. 17 orders. Then 58. Then 130. I sat there on the edge of my bed, staring at the screen like I was in a dream. I laughed. Then I cried. I didn't move for an hour. By that evening, I had to put up a wait list because I didn't have the supplies to keep up. I called my mom, thinking, maybe this is the moment they finally see me. I told her what had happened. The views, the orders, the sudden demand. She paused and said, "Well, don't let it go to your head. Internet stuff doesn't last." I said nothing. I just stared at the wall and felt that tiny flicker of hope shrink a little, but this time, I didn't let their voices drown mine. I got off the phone, took a deep breath, and started packing boxes. Dozens of them. I had work to do, and it was finally paying. Success has a weird way of changing how people treat you, especially the ones who never believed in you to begin. A few weeks after the viral video, I was drowning in orders. I'd hired 2 friends part-time, rented a small co-working space, and placed my first bulk inventory order. The momentum was real. I was exhausted but high on adrenaline. That's when Daniel called. He said he was proud of me, that he'd been watching from the sidelines and was really impressed. I should have known better. He invited me to dinner. Just the 2 of us. Said he wanted to talk business. I was cautious but curious. Maybe this was the support I'd always wanted. We met at a trendy rooftop bar. His idea. He showed up in a designer blazer, already holding a cocktail. After some small talk, he leaned in and said, "Listen, I've got a proposal." He wanted to invest in my company. "Let me take a 40% equity stake," he said smoothly, "and I'll get you in front of real investors. Scale this thing faster." I stared at him, stunned. "You laughed at me," I said. "You called this a waste of time," he chuckled. "That was before you proved me wrong. I'm just trying to help now. You're in over your head. You need someone who understands business." My chest tightened. He wasn't offering help. He was trying to take control. I turned him down, politely but firmly. Later that night, I got a group text from my parents. "Daniel's just trying to help. Don't let pride ruin a good thing." I didn't respond. They didn't see my growth. They saw an opportunity to own what I built, and they were just getting started. After I turned Daniel down, the silence was immediate and loud. No more check-in calls from my mom. No passive-aggressive texts from my dad. Not even a fake, "How's everything going?" message. It was like they flipped a switch and I stopped existing. I should have felt relief. But instead, it felt like I'd lost something I never even had. Then things started to fall apart. One of my international suppliers got hit with a customs delay. Weeks turned into months. Customers were getting impatient. Refund requests flooded in. Negative reviews started stacking up. My TikTok momentum stalled and traffic slowed to a crawl. One night, I came home to find a stack of returned boxes at my door. Defective pieces. Shipping damage. Lost revenue. I sat on the floor with my head in my hands, surrounded by cardboard, ink-stained fingers, and silence. That was my lowest point. I thought about quitting, just shutting it all down, calling my parents and saying they were right, that I failed, that I should have taken the job at my uncle's insurance firm like they always suggested. I even drafted the message. "You win. I can't do it." I stared at it for an hour, thumb hovering over send. But then I looked around. At the mess. At the brand I built with my own 2 hands. At the customer thank you notes, taped to my wall, one from a high school teacher, who said my product helped her stay organized during chemotherapy, and I realized something. They didn't see the worth in what I was building. But I did, and maybe that was enough. I deleted the draft, took a breath, and started over. From zero. Starting over didn't mean wiping the slate clean. It meant rebuilding with intention. I cut every unnecessary cost, canceled my co-working lease, consolidated suppliers. I stopped trying to impress anyone and focused on what made people fall in love with my products in the first place. Clean, personal, useful. I spent weeks redesigning the core line, adding subtle improvements, shooting new photos myself. No more trendy gimmicks, no flashy marketing, just value. And it worked. Slowly, the orders started coming back. Smaller at first, then consistent. Customers who had waited months came back to reorder. One even emailed saying, "I don't care how long it takes. I only buy from you now." That message hit me harder than any order ever could. I leaned into the customer stories. Teachers, remote workers, students, people trying to stay sane in a chaotic world. I turned their feedback into content, and my second viral video wasn't about aesthetics. It was about purpose. I featured one of my customers, a single mom balancing work-from-home life, using my organizer to create a peaceful space for her kids. That video didn't just get views, it got connection. My inbox flooded again, but this time it felt earned. The revenue tripled over the next 2 months. I hired a small team, people who believed in what we were doing. Real people, real passion. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. I was a business owner, a creator, a guy who built something meaningful from the scraps no one else saw value in, but the world has a funny way of circling back, and I had no idea who would come knocking. Next, it was a Saturday morning when the email came through. Subject line, Keynote Speaker Invitation, Small Business Growth Summit. At first, I thought it was spam, but it wasn't. It was a real invitation from a regional entrepreneurship group I'd followed online for years. They'd seen my latest video and wanted me to share my journey. I reread the message 3 times, heart pounding. I said yes. The event was local. Nothing massive, maybe 200 people. But for me, it felt like standing on a mountaintop. A year ago, I was packing boxes in a dark apartment, questioning my sanity. Now, I was being invited to talk about how I made it work. I spent days preparing my speech. Raw, honest, no fluff. When the day came, I stood backstage, smoothing the wrinkles out of my jacket with sweaty palms. The host called my name. I walked up, swallowed hard, and started. I told them everything. The failures, the humiliation, the night I almost gave up, the parents who never believed in me. The moment I chose myself anyway. People nodded. Some teared up. When I finished, the room exploded with applause. And then, I saw them, my parents, sitting in the second row, dead center. My dad in his old blazer. My mom with her lips pressed tight, trying to smile. I hadn't told them I was speaking. I didn't even think they'd know about the event. But there they were, clapping like they hadn't spent the last 2 years pretending I didn't exist. Afterward, they approached me in the hallway. My mom reached out and said, "We had no idea how far you'd come. We're proud of you." Proud. That word hit like a slap. I didn't know whether to laugh or walk away, because this wasn't pride. This was them realizing they were too late. After the summit, everything snowballed. I landed 2 major wholesale contracts with boutique retailers. A tech podcast featured my story, and within days I was booked for 3 more speaking gigs. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was building legacy. I moved my business out of my cramped apartment into a clean, modern office space, 10 minutes from the same neighborhood I grew up in. Glass walls, sunlight streaming in, plants in every corner. I walked through those doors every morning with purpose, and that's when the calls started again. First, it was my mom. "Just checking in," she said, acting like the last year never happened. "Your father and I were wondering if we could stop by and see the new place sometime." Then Daniel texted, "Congrats on the office, man. I always knew you had it in you." Funny. A year ago, I was in over my head. Now they wanted to play the supportive family card. The more success I found, the harder they tried to reinsert themselves into my life, through casual calls, dinner invitations, even Facebook comments under my business posts like we were suddenly one big happy team. But I saw through it. They didn't respect my journey. They just wanted to be close enough to claim credit for the destination. I kept my replies polite, distant, one-word texts, short calls. I didn't lash out. I didn't need to. Their confusion grew, and I could sense it in their voices. They didn't understand why their son, the dreamer, the disappointment, wasn't rushing to forgive and forget, but I remembered every dismissal. Every time they called my ideas a phase. Every time they laughed, and deep down, I think they knew. This version of me didn't need them anymore, and that terrified them. It was a quiet Thursday morning when my HR manager knocked on my office door with a puzzled look. "Hey," she said, holding her tablet. "You might want to see this." She turned it around. 2 job applications sat open on the screen, one from my father, one from my mother. I blinked. "You're kidding," she shook her head. Applied to the warehouse assistant role and front desk admin. No cover letters, just resumes. "And your last name." I stared at the screen in silence. For a second, I actually thought it might be a prank, but it wasn't. I double-checked the emails and contact numbers. It was them. My father, who once told me no one would buy cheap desk trash, was now applying for a 19-hour role to help with operations. My mom, who said I was wasting my degree, wanted to be my receptionist. The irony was almost too much. They didn't email me, didn't call, just slipped quietly into the application pool, hoping, maybe, to blend in. I asked HR to mark them as pending and not reach out yet. I needed time to sit with it. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay on my couch staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the versions of me they ignored. The broke one, the hopeful one, the one who cried on Christmas night over their laughter. And now, here they were, not asking for forgiveness, not apologizing, just submitting a form and hoping I'd forget everything that came before. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even shocked. I just felt numb. Because the truth was, I'd always imagined this moment. But I never thought it would come with this much silence. And I had a decision to make. I asked them to come in the next morning. No official interview, just a meeting. They walked in 10 minutes early, dressed like they were headed to church. My dad wore a stiff button-up shirt I'd never seen before. My mom had her hair pulled back like she used to for PTA nights. They sat across from me in the conference room. My conference room. I watched them glance around nervously, eyes landing on the framed customer thank you letters on the wall, the shelves lined with my products, the logo behind me that they once mocked. "Why did you apply here?" I asked, no warmth in my voice. My dad cleared his throat. "Your mother and I, well, things have been tight. My company downsized. And your mom's shop, it didn't make it through the last quarter." "I see." My mom leaned forward, forcing a smile. "We thought maybe this could be a fresh start. Working with family. Full circle." I let the silence stretch. Then I said, "You know what I remember? I remember asking you both if I could use the garage. I remember being told I was chasing nonsense. I remember sitting at Christmas dinner while everyone laughed at my dream. My dad looked down. My mom blinked rapidly. I built this, I continued, without a cent from either of you. And now that it's real, now that it's successful, now you want to be part of it? We're sorry, my mom whispered. We didn't know. No, I said quietly. You didn't want to know. They sat frozen, like kids caught in a lie. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like their son. I felt like their equal. Or maybe even something more. And I wasn't finished yet. I leaned back in my chair and took a slow breath. They were waiting, for mercy, maybe, or a second chance they hadn't earned. I'm not hiring you, I said, calm and clear. Not out of bitterness, but because I don't trust your reasons. My dad stiffened, like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. My mom just nodded slowly, eyes glassy. You didn't believe in me when it counted, I continued, and I can't rewrite that history to make this more comfortable. They stayed quiet. For once, no guilt-tripping, no defensiveness, just the cold weight of accountability finally landing where it should have years ago. I stood and walked to the door, holding it open for them. Before they left, I added, I don't hate you. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I just finally realized I don't need your validation to feel whole anymore. My mom whispered, We understand. They stepped out, and I closed the door behind them. I stood there for a moment, hand on the knob, listening to the muffled sound of their footsteps fading down the hall. And in that silence, something inside me settled. This wasn't revenge the way I used to imagine it. Not some grand, angry scene or public humiliation. It was quieter than that. Cleaner. I'd won. Not because they lost, but because I built something despite them. And now, I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Weeks later, I saw them working at a local office supply chain. Him unloading boxes, her at the returns desk. They didn't see me. I didn't stop, and I didn't feel cruel. I just felt free, and that was worth more than any apology they could have ever given.